protected by God.
Police are treating a New Year's Eve stabbing attack as an act of terrorism after a man shouting "God is great" in Arabic stabbed 3 people, including a police sergeant. This was in Manchester, a railway station there. Police arrested that man on suspicion of attempted murder and conducted a search of his home. Jackie Heinrich joins us with the very latest. Jackie, what are police saying over there?
Well, Blake, police say they don't believe there's any wider threat, but of course this happened in the same city that 22 people were just killed 8 months ago at that Ariana Grande concert, that arena nearby, so it really has shaken that community hard. It happened as people were heading out for New Year's Eve celebrations at Victoria train station in Manchester. Police said they got a call about a man armed with a knife. Officers tackled him, but not before 3 people, including an officer, had been seriously hurt. The chief constable spoke today saying that attack has shaken that city after the suicide bombing at last year's Ariana Grande concert. And this morning, police searched a nearby address where they believe that suspect had been living. Witnesses told the Associated Press the man shouted Allah before the attack, but police have not confirmed that, Blake.
Meantime, police in Germany say a man tried to attack people who are from Syria and Afghanistan. What can you tell us about that?
Well, police in Germany say that was an attack, an intentional attack on foreigners. A 50-year-old driver from Germany, police say he plowed his car into a crowd early this morning, hurting 4 people there. He then sped off and allegedly tried to hit a group of people waiting at a bus stop. He didn't hit them. He was arrested. Police said he made comments against foreigners while he was being taken in.
To my fellow heroes, I have returned, victorious once again. It is now January 1st of 2019, the year of our Lord, and what a year it was. What we see on a daily basis almost has become the norm, although less than 5 years ago, it was anything but normal. We have had enough, and now we see a new power rising in Europe of nationalism and traditionalism. The revolt against the leaders that would seek to destroy us and the West has just begun. I do find it funny, however, that Europeans are finally sick and tired enough to take to the streets to defend their ancestral homeland, and the very people that caused the Islamic invasion now come up against us and nationalism and the people defending their countries. They call us fascists, yet they're the ones who wish to censor us. They call us Nazis, yet they're the ones who want to imprison us. We truly live in a bizarro world, but not for much longer, for 2019 is the year of our rise. The simpleton mindset of non-thinking people will not last, for we are the most passionate and the most energized. We will win. And after all this psychosis, a new European spring has arrived. Non-thinking people would try to convince us that the uprising of nationalism in Europe and in the West is nothing more than a repeat of Nazi fascist Germany, when in actuality we are closer to the 1848 revolution that not many people know about. The revolutions of 1848, known in some countries as the Spring of Nations, the People's Spring, Springtime of the Peoples, or the Year of Revolution, were a series of political upheavals throughout Europe in 1848. It remains the most widespread revolutionary wave in European history. The revolutions were essentially democratic and liberal in nature, with the aim of removing old monarch structures and creating independent nation-states. The revolution spread across Europe after an initial revolution began in France in February. Over 50 countries were affected, but with no significant coordination or cooperation amongst their respective revolutionaries. Some of the major contributing factors were widespread dissatisfaction with political leadership, demands for more participation in government and democracy, demands for freedom of the press, other demands made by the working class, the upsurge of nationalism, and the regrouping of established government forces. As we see, it started in France. Even back then, how history repeats itself, with the modern yellow vests starting in France in 2018. Also, some of the major contributing factors were widespread dissatisfaction with political leadership. Now, What we see today with modern mainstream media is not freedom of the press. They are paid globalist sympathizers who aren't even real journalists. Obviously, they don't write their own script, nor do they think for themselves, and as far as liberalism being at the heart of 1848 revolution, we see liberals today as not even a shadow of their former selves. They're not real liberals. Liberalism has been hijacked by Marxists and leftist communists. Modern liberals no longer exist as far as I can tell. Like I said before, if you study the past, you can predict the future. This era of technocratic globalism, being led mainly by Angela Merkel and Macron, is coming to an end in spectacular fashion. Macron's poll numbers are perhaps the lowest in France's history in the past 100 years. When it comes to the leaders of globalism in Europe, they have single-digit approval numbers, and it speaks volumes for 2019 and what's coming. I think the strangest thing is that even though his poll numbers should give grounds to him being physically removed from office, he just sits on his pedestal, not acknowledging that his country is burning from the inside out. The funny thing is, about the France Revolution of 1848, is that it began in February 1848. We now officially live in a time where truth is stranger than fiction, or perhaps it always was. Yellow Vest uprisings have spread across Europe much like the 1848 revolution, including countries like Portugal, Belgium, Netherlands, Britain, Canada, even Taiwan, America, Italy, Spain, Austria, and many more. Italy's election in particular in 2018 shows that even Western Europe is falling to the nationalist right. Make no mistake, this is the era of revolt, reborn in the fires of Christian-dominant West. And with GDP growth somewhat stable in European countries, we can tell for sure that this is not just about economics. Minus a few outliers like France's gas tax, etc., the extra taxes were merely the tipping point. This is a revolt against the leaders of our country's moral compass. We see where their path leads, the death and destruction of the greatest countries on earth. We are sending a very clear message that the European elites, who are basically morons from what I could tell, do not speak for us now or ever. And of course, we can't forget that David Cameron in the UK, who spoke against Brexit, then resigned openly, admitted that the Brexit might cause World War III, which is preposterous. Why would a country freeing itself from globalism cause a world war? Who in their right mind would want to be tied to Brussels with their open-door psychotic vision? If anything, staying in the European Union would cause a world war. It is truly amazing and spectacular in our era of technology where Google, Amazon, Walmart, even YouTube, all the major corporations are against us, all the mainstream media bought and paid for against us, the most powerful people in the world stand against us, and yet we keep winning elections. It really is amazing and impossible to deny. It's still shocking that some people would push for a global idea like this. The idea of having foreign leaders dictate to you what you can or cannot do is somehow beneficial, yet it has never produced a single beneficial thing. And something else about Brexit, people think that this was something new or something done at the last second, but it wasn't. Over 50% of the UK's population has been upset with the European Union's agenda for decades. Something very mystical about the truth, as well as it rings true when spoken. It rings true spiritually and mentally. The fact is, this massive revolution has a legitimate set of serious grievances that Western European leaders won't address, and it will be their downfall, as we continue to see. It's funny to see how Europe has kicked the monarchs out just to have them reinstated in the 21st century, but not for much longer. I like how Trump has said before, the nation-state remains the true foundation for happiness and harmony. Always has been, always will be. Really blows my mind how in the past, European leaders have somehow convinced their populations that absorbing tens of millions of Muslim migrants from North Africa is somehow a good thing, and not only a good thing, but that they would be easily assimilated. Of course, which of none is true. All the grievances of the Yellow Vests and others is completely legitimate and will swell. And from Macron to come out and say that the native French population are somehow thugs just dug his own grave, and his poll numbers show it. So here we stand, in 2019, the year of our Lord, where the European spring of 1848 is upon us. And remember, you've got to know the truth and seek the truth, and it will set you free. And as always, God be with us, God bless us, and Godspeed.